And welcome everybody to this week's episode of Relive the Magic. I'm your host, Dallas Thompson, and today we have a lot to get to, from what's coming up in this month to some movie news to some theme park news and more. And before we get to that, I want to invite you, if you enjoy this content, please give us a like, give us a subscribe on YouTube or Spotify or iTunes, wherever you're listening to this from. And for day-to-day content, you can check us out on Twitter and Instagram, as well as Facebook. And now, let's get on with today's show. So first, I wanted to just say welcome to March. Today is March 3rd, and as a result, today is the start of the Epcot Flower and Garden Festival for 2021. It's, of course, a very popular event at Epcot every year, with a lot of topiaries and a lot of food booths. That's become more of a thing in recent years, but it's just a very popular event, and that starts today, March 3rd. So stay tuned to our YouTube channel and our social media for more coverage of that as the event goes on. And tomorrow, March 4th, is the official launch of Paramount Plus, along with the SpongeBob movie Sponge on the Run, and as well as a show that is a prequel show to the SpongeBob series, but it is basically a follow-up to that movie. I have watched the SpongeBob movie, Sponge on the Run, and in short, it's pretty good. If you're a fan of SpongeBob, I definitely recommend checking it out. But if not, I mean, I don't know if you'll find it of use to subscribe to the service just for that. But if you're already wanting to join, it's definitely worth a watch. And I'll be posting a review of that shortly on its own. And then Friday, March 5th is the day we've all been waiting for. WandaVision Episode 9, the finale, will release. It'll be 50 minutes long, and we'll review it March 7th on Sunday with a full spoiler discussion of that and of the show in general. It's been a great show, so I'm excited to break it down and give my thoughts overall. And also on Friday, Raya and the Last Dragon, the newest film from Disney Animation Studios, will release on Disney Plus and in theaters. On Disney Plus, it'll cost $30. In theaters, it'll be whatever normal ticket costs are. So it's gotten some really good reviews. I haven't seen that one yet, but I will be watching it this weekend, and we will have a review up on March 8th in the same style as the WandaVision spoiler reviews. So stay tuned for that. And it's worth saying, this weekend, March 4th through 10th, we'll be posting a bunch of content from an upcoming trip to Walt Disney World. Next week's podcast will be all about our trip. We'll be going to Hollywood Studios, see what's up there, Magic Kingdom, Disney Springs, and probably some other places. So stay tuned for some content from that, video content, pictures, podcast, and just updates overall. And I'd recommend following us on Twitter for more day-to-day updates from that. And then next week on March 9th is the quarterly Disney shareholder meeting, and typically there's something that comes out of that, something usually pretty small. I think last year we got some footage from Falcon and Winter Soldier and some news about Avengers Campus, so expect some news, but don't expect anything huge or groundbreaking. Just expect some news, and remember, that's next week on March 9th, so that is a week from yesterday, Tuesday, so that'll be next Tuesday. And then March 12th will be next Friday, and Disney will be releasing a WandaVision behind-the-scenes documentary. Depending on how it is, we'll probably talk about it a little bit on the show. And then also they'll be releasing 4 episodes of Marvel Legends based on the Falcon and Winter Soldier. Of course, we'll get Falcon and we'll get Winter Soldier. And I would assume we'll probably get Sharon Carter and Zemo as well. And then next week, the next week is 2 huge things coming. March 18th, Thursday, March 18th, the Snyder Cut will release, and we will have a live, probably pretty long, spoiler discussion on March 19th live on our YouTube channel. And there you can send in comments and questions as we go along, and we'll talk about it. The Snyder Cut, the 4-hour Snyder Cut. So that'll be pretty entertaining. And then the next day is the first episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We will have a live spoiler discussion and breakdown on March 21st for that. March 26th, the following week, will be episode 2 of Falcon and Winter Soldier, and we'll do a live discussion and breakdown on March 28th. We typically wait a couple days to get our spoiler breakdowns out there, just to give people a chance to watch it and give me a chance to watch it a couple times to dissect it a little bit more. And then March 31st, I believe that's a Wednesday, Godzilla vs. Kong will release on HBO Max and in theaters. We will have a live spoiler discussion on that on April 2nd to give a few days to watch that. And so that is what March looks like in general, and then also on our site, and specifically with our videos and coverage. And, there will be a ton more small things here and there that weren't listed there, but that was what stood out to me as important in the month of March. All right, so our first topic is about something in the world of movies, and our first few are actually in the world of movies. Blade, the upcoming Marvel Studios film with Mahershala Ali. It has been highly anticipated, and it's been a topic of conversation for the last couple of weeks because of some random comments here and there. And people have mainly been wondering, when are they going to get moving on this? And the second thing they've been asking is, will it or should it be rated R? And here's the thing. Blade, first of all, it'll begin filming this year, 2021, later in the year more than likely. They're still writing the story, I believe. But that's good to know. They'll get moving on it this year, probably for a release late next year or maybe early 2023. But it makes sense to be next year sometime, maybe 2022. And I honestly I'm not that familiar with the character Blade, so I can't speak too much to this. I can just speak from what I know. I'm looking forward to this movie. The actor, Mahershala Ali, he's an amazing actor. He's an award-winning actor. And so I trust in him. I trust in Marvel Studios, of course, to make a fantastic film. But this is interesting. A lot of people have been like, this has to be rated R. This has to be rated R to be good. And that argument typically doesn't stand, except for one instance, which is Deadpool, in my opinion. And recently, Kevin Feige said there are no other plans to have an R-rated Marvel film other than Deadpool 3. And when asked why, he said Deadpool is kind of already an established thing. Like, Ryan Reynolds' character is very obviously in an R-rated world. They basically have to keep going with that, which makes sense. And so that leaves people thinking, well, I guess Blade will not be rated R then, if he says that. And I think that's the correct assumption. And so that leads to another question. Should Blade be rated R? Does it need to be rated R? And I think that is an important question to ask because I don't think it needs to be rated R. I don't think anything needs to be rated R to be good. If adding the things that are under the R category make your film better, then maybe it's not a very good film. I understand this is a vampire film, so, in that aspect, it could be pretty gory and many other things. I don't think any of that would make the film better. I don't think not having it would make the film worse. So I think we should calm down. I think we should wait and see what they do. I think it'll be great, and if it needs to be rated R, it will be rated R, but it doesn't need to be rated R. So that's my opinion there. And another film we'll talk about today is Tom and Jerry, which debuted in theaters this last weekend and on HBO Max. It is, I think, the third film in that HBO Max same day as theaters experiment they're doing. And it did pretty well. It made $14 million, almost $14 million in its opening weekend, which isn't amazing numbers, but in the COVID era, that's pretty good. And it shows that it's about to be time to, open the theaters back up, in my opinion. And what's interesting is it got those numbers while also debuting for free on HBO Max. So that shows there's a yearning to get back into the theaters and not just see a movie, but go to the theaters. And with a film like Tom and Jerry that's gotten really pretty bad reviews, to be honest, it surprised me a bit. I kind of thought, I didn't think it'd do very well. I think it did pretty good on HBO Max as well. I haven't watched it yet, but it's in my queue of things to watch. I've heard bad things, but I've always loved Tom and Jerry, so I imagine I'll probably enjoy it, but I'll probably talk about it on next week's podcast once I get a chance to check it out. But that leads me to another thing I was thinking about. We're getting close to May, and May is when Black Widow is supposed to finally hit theaters, May 7th. And everyone's been going back and forth. Will it release in theaters? Will it release in theaters and Premier Access? Will it release just on Premier Access? Will it release for free on Disney+? I think Disney has no choice but to stick with the May 7th release date. I don't know if it'll be premiere access and theaters or just theaters, but I think they have to put it in theaters. I think it has to be May 7th, and here's why. Tom and Jerry has been successful. Wonder Woman 84 was pretty successful. Those are two movies that honestly didn't get great reviews. Black Widow will more than likely get good reviews. It's a Marvel film. Everyone loves Marvel. Everyone's on a high of Marvel right now with WandaVision. And this last week, New York decided it's time to reopen theaters. New York is one of the biggest markets for movie theaters, and LA is easing up. And just today, a couple of states got rid of their mask mandates. So we're seeing that things are starting to get a little bit back to normal. And so I think it's time for theaters to open up, and I think they'll only open up in those places if Disney releases this. Another reason Disney has to release Black Widow soon on that date, I think, is because of the Phase 4 schedule. If they have to push this movie back, they have to push everything back again, and that would mess up so much. It would mess up their Disney Plus lineup. It would mess up their theaters lineup. It would mess up Disney overall, their whole lineup. And is that worth it for Black Widow? I don't know. If this was the Eternals or something, I'd be like, yeah, maybe, but this is Black Widow we're talking about. People have been seeing commercials for this for over a year now, and I think the interest is going to fade away if they don't go ahead and release this film. And my prediction is I think they will announce this March 9th at the shareholders meeting. They will either double down on the May 7th date, or they will say theaters and Disney Plus, or I don't know. They'll give us an answer then, though, I think. Because that's kind of when they need to go ahead and ramp up marketing for that film. And so I don't know what you guys think, but that is how I stand. That's where I stand right now on what should happen with Black Widow. I think they have no choice but to go ahead and release it in some fashion on May 7th, but it has to be in theaters because contracts. So that is that, in my opinion. And now we have a couple things from the theme park world. This last week, Volcano Bay reopened at Universal Orlando. It's been closed since, I believe, October, maybe November, either October or November. They said it was for refurbishment, but it had to do with the crowds, of course. And so this last weekend on Saturday, I believe, maybe Sunday, it reopened to not too bad of crowds, it looked like. Most things were a ride now. If you know anything about Volcano Bay, you get this wristband, the Tapu Tapu, and basically the way you wait in lines is virtual queues, and that's the only way to wait in lines unless something's listed as a ride now. And pretty much everything was a ride now all day from what it looked like online. It looked like everyone there had a good time. It looked like it was fairly safe. A water park during COVID, I've been curious how they would do that. And you don't wear masks in the pool, of course. You don't wear it on the slides, but they ask you to wear it when you're like walking around in the restaurants or the stores or just the areas like the entrance. Well, they don't ask you to, they require you to, which is good. I think the way they're doing it is good. And I think the Orlando parks have been doing pretty good in general with their COVID requirements and regulations. So it's good to see they can reopen Volcano Bay. And this upcoming week, Disney is reopening Blizzard Beach, and I believe also Typhoon Lagoon. Might just be Blizzard Beach, but those are reopening, so we'll see their protocols and what success they have with reopening those. Those have been closed for a long time. Volcano Bay reopened for a bit back in August, September, but Disney has not reopened theirs yet. So it'll be interesting to see how Disney's water park operations vary from Universal's, and of course, both are going to be limiting capacity. And some slides, by the way, they require sanitation before you can get on. I think the Krakatoa Aqua Coaster requires that. But yeah, it's good to see Volcano Bay back up and running and for it to be thriving. So I'm excited for Universal. I'm excited for whoever gets to visit, and I'm hoping to visit sometime this year, probably later in the year. But yeah, I've never been, and the place looks great, of course. I've only ever heard great things, and I look forward to checking it out sometime. Next up, it's kind of a controversial topic. This week at Epcot, the Harmonius Centerpiece, the giant trussing for the new show Harmonius that's replacing Reflections of Earth at Epcot, got installed in the middle of the waterway, and it's permanently installed there. And some people, it's huge. It is pretty big. It's 6 stories tall, I believe. But honestly, I think online has really blown this out of proportion. People are saying like, oh, this is proof that Disney is no longer what it used to be. This is Disney's lazy, Disney's horrible, And at first I was like, well, yeah, it does look kind of tacky, but then you see some pictures that are actually in perspective, and it's not that bad. It's not anything to be upset about, I don't think. And I have an argument against why Disney is not, lazy, and I think we're honestly, recently we got that news that they were going to spend less on the parks, and that's disappointing. But if you look at what we've gotten in the last few years, the last 10 years, we've gotten Cars Land, we've gotten Mission Breakout, we've gotten new ships. We're about to get new ships. We've gotten Galaxy's Edge on both coasts. We've gotten Toy Story Land. We've gotten Mickey's Runaway Railway, and several other things, I'm sure. We got all of Shanghai Disneyland. I know Toy Story Land to some was disappointing, but the rides that they've been making, the attractions, the experiences, they've all been incredible. They've all been top tier, at least in my opinion, and that of many others. And so this small thing that most people won't care about in the slightest, I think it's ridiculous, to be honest. And when it's supposed to become a daytime fountain, and so maybe we should wait and see how it looks when it is as it's supposed to be. Maybe that might be smart. So that's my thoughts on that. And I'm going to probably see it in person this weekend, but we'll see about that. I'm looking forward, though, to the Harmonius show, as we talked about last week. It'll probably debut this fall by October for the 50th anniversary. And I think everyone just needs to calm down, and just, I don't know. I thought everything was ridiculous about that. And I don't think it's as big of a deal as many people are pointing it out to be. All right, and our final topic today on a quick show is about Comic-Con. So Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con, is a huge deal, obviously. It's been happening for many years, and last year, at the very last minute, Comic-Con had to cancel because of COVID. And everyone was wondering, is it going to happen this year? Is it possible? And Comic-Con, I never thought was going to happen this year. Comic-Con as it is a thing where you get sick anyway, more than likely. So imagine Comic-Con this year, like, people would be getting sick all over the place. People would be complaining. I think it'd be a huge mess. And so today, or a couple days ago at this point, Comic-Con announced Comic-Con at Home will return for 2021. Comic-Con at Home will take place July 23rd through July 25th online. It'll probably be a lot better than last year because they're announcing this in March and they're putting it together now. However, they said there might be a possible smaller event in November in San Diego. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then they plan to return to normal Comic-Con in 2022, in probably July of 2022. And I think it makes sense. I mean, I don't think it's a surprise to anyone. The November thing is a little weird to me. I think it's possible. I just don't see what benefit. I don't see what they're going to do. Like, does that mean Comic-Con at Home won't matter? Like, the content there, they'll save it all for November? Or does that mean November will just be, like, not even worth attending necessarily because they did everything at home? Or are they just going to be, is it going to be completely different than normal? Who knows? Like, they never give any details, and I think that's because, I think that's because they don't know. I think they don't want to get people excited for a November event if it's not going to happen. And why November? Normally it's summer, and November because A, COVID. 2, I think they want less people to go. Most people already travel in November and December, so most people won't be able to travel for Comic-Con. And so that'll keep it more local. That'll keep it more diehard fans. That'll keep it smaller in general. So that makes sense to me, I guess, to ease back into it and see what a convention can be like under today's circumstances. So that makes sense to me. What do you guys think, though? I've been thinking about this a lot. What do you think it could look like in November? What do you think it could look like in July at Home? What do you think the similarities will be, the differences? How do you think they'll handle 2022? Do you think this will happen again next year? Do you think it'll go back to July next year? Do you think November will be the new date? There's a lot of questions here, and there's only one way to find out. We'll just have to wait and see, I guess. All right, and thank you all for listening to today's episode. It was a little shorter than normal, but we had several topics. I didn't have a co-host today, so that made it shorter than normal. And I've been having some vocal issues today, and so please forgive me for that. But there are some interesting things. Next week's show will be all about a trip to Walt Disney World, about what's going on there, what's new, what's recent, just random updates, along with a lot of content on our YouTube channel and our social media, so stay tuned to that. Until next time, though, thank you all for listening, and we will see you next week.